Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea. I'm the president and co-founder of the Stigma-Free Society. I've been saying that all morning, but I thought I'd just say it again for those just tuning in. I am so excited. I have the opportunity for the first time to have a full interview for half an hour with Silken Laumann. So welcome, Silken.
Oh, Andrea, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a longtime admirer of you and your work. You're an incredibly strong woman, a force of nature. So it's a pleasure to be part of the show today.
Awesome. So I'm going to start off by sharing your biography, if that's all right.
Go ahead. I might learn some things about myself.
I really want people to know you, and already so many people already do, but this is the second time I've had the opportunity to share your bio. Once was at a conference, and now today on Stigma Free Live, which I'm really excited about. So four-time Olympian Silken Laumann is one of Canada's most inspirational leaders, a best-selling author, and a child and mental health advocate. Silken's Olympic story is legendary and truly inspirational. As reigning world champion, Silken fought back from a devastating rowing accident to win a bronze medal in the 1992 Summer Olympics in Barcelona. Wow. Her best-selling memoir is called Unsinkable, and she shines a spotlight on all of the obstacles she has encountered and has overcome. Silken speaks candidly about her athletic success and triumph over physical adversity, but also the intense personal challenges of her past and the fierce determination she applies to living a bold and very successful life today. Most recently, Silken has launched a not-for-profit organization actually called Unsinkable. And that organization connects humans and life stories together to spark new insights around achieving whole health. And Unsinkable is absolutely one of the most inspiring websites I have ever seen of sharing personal stories. So thank you for all of your work, Silken.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a very rewarding journey. We've been up for a year now, and I think when we started, Andrea, I was like, who's going to share their personal stories with us?
And so many people.
I know we always have the opposite problem where we're, having to figure out how to write all these stories and include everybody. But as you know, Andrea, when you started the Stigma-Free Society, it's like you don't know what you're creating because you might have a vision of what you're creating, but then the people, it becomes for the people and from the people, and that's kind of what's happened with Unsinkable. We had this idea that it would be this website where stories would live, and Andrea, you shared your story so beautifully on our site, and it's such a powerful story. I'm really, really grateful for that, and I'm really grateful for all our writers. As you know, running a not-for-profit today in COVID's environment is really, really challenging. But I guess I take a lot of strength, and I know that I'm on the right path personally, and I know that Unsinkable and Unsinkable Youth comes from a place of deep integrity.
Nice. And one of the things that I feel like everybody often talks about your Olympic history, which I love in Unsinkable, but you're a really good author. And I bought your book, Unsinkable, at the conference event where I saw you. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit with our audience about your, what connects you to the whole cause of mental health wellness?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. I didn't know that that I experienced mental illness in my life till really late in life. So I thought it was just super normal to feel sad and to whenever I slowed down to have this sadness at my heels. And I grew up with a mom who had an undiagnosed mental illness, and we're not allowed to call it what it was. And so that whole part of me was very much suppressed until I started counseling and started to realize, wow, this is actually a thing, and I can get help. It's not a shame I have to carry inside me. It's not a character defect that somehow I was not born enough, or you know, all the things that I thought was wrong with me were really things that, with the right support, became part of my strength and my uniqueness.
Yeah.
And I think having a mom, Andrea, who had an undiagnosed mental illness, and seeing the destruction that created in our lives, because we weren't allowed to talk about it. We weren't even allowed to, like, we had to actually believe that it was normal to have somebody throwing plates and screaming and you know, be worried about your life. You know, was something tragic going to happen that night? And that was my normal. And because it was balanced out in a home with a lot of love and creativity and vibrancy, when I started having, you know, feelings of not being right, and the sadness that would never go away, I didn't automatically think this is an illness. I thought there was something deeply flawed inside me. So, Andrea, because that was my experience, and I recognize that everybody's experience is different. And through the grace of God, I guess I haven't had, you know, depression so deep that I couldn't get up in the morning or anything like that. But I really have empathy for people who are struggling, and all the myriad of ways and reasons why they're struggling. Everything from chemistry that just so doesn't work in their favor, to trauma as children. I think I have a deep connection to childhood trauma, and I feel always so deeply moved to stand up for young people who experience trauma in their childhoods. So I think that's my connection to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story, and I always love hearing your story. And when I was reading your book, saw a lot of myself in there as well. My mother has schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination between schizophrenia and bipolar. And even though she was diagnosed, you know, we never talked about it. It was this taboo. Things are changing quite a bit. We still have a lot of work to do, Silken, and I'm really glad that you do what you do. But I just wanted to ask one thing. Was there a defining moment for you when, like, what was it? Was there something where you just stopped and you were like, okay, I need help?
Totally. So I had kids, and my kids were pretty young, I think, when I realized I need help. And what I was noticing, Andrea, was rage. I was noticing this anger that had such a deep intensity and source. And sometimes it was directed towards my kids. And I thought, holy crap, like there was a moment in Phoenix, Arizona, actually, where I had gone to a conference, and I wanted to combine the conference, my working holiday, with my kids, and, you know, do it all, which is like totally my way of operating, just do it all, you know. And of course, you can't really when you have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and they were being 2 and 4-year-olds. And suddenly I had so much rage towards them, and I wanted to hurt them. It's really hard to say.
No, but it's honest.
It's honest, but it's like when I actually go there and I remember that feeling and how much I love my kids. And I think that was a moment of clarity for me, Andrea, where it's like, okay, I don't care what I think about what's going on. I need help. I need help. And I was so fortunate, because I reached out to a friend who had a really great relationship with her counselor, and her counselor called me like right then and there when I was like, you know, outside the hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona, like holding onto my hand, weeping, as I kind of realized, like, this is not right. And even still, I didn't have any, I just thought I'd go to a counselor and like I'd talk a couple times and I'd be just as right. Yeah, okay, got it now. That's box. All good. I didn't know that I was going to be embarking on this incredibly deep spiritual journey and emotional journey, which I've been on ever since. And it's been the most remarkable journey of my life, and has deepened me and widened me and broadened me. And I mean, I'm so grateful for finding that moment. And so it was my kids.
Yeah. It's amazing. Thank you for being so honest. I think that rawness and that authenticity, it inspires other people to come forward with their truths. And so thank you for that. I know that's not easy. So it's beautiful.
Thank you.
You almost made me cry and I got like goosebumps.
Kind of when we know we're in our truth, right? And I think just speaking for a moment about that, I think that, well, everybody has a story and everybody goes through things in their life, and I'm no different than other people. But I do think I've come to a place in my life where my love for myself and my acceptance of myself is so deep that I can be honest about the yucky parts and the parts that are so imperfect, because I don't carry shame about those things anymore. I really recognize, and I'm like you on, a lifetime journey of continuing to better myself and to learn and to grow. And as I do those things, I have better responses. I'm a better version of myself. So you can't go back and say, like, I can't. So sometimes I will, of course, because I've got these little people, and my little people grew into 20-somethings, and they've had to unpack some of the shit that went on because of me, right? And that's super hard, right? When you realize, like, oh, I actually created some trauma in them because I didn't deal with it until, they were well into their grade school years. But I think when you have that acceptance and love for yourself, you don't spend all your time beating yourself up that you weren't good enough 10, 15 years ago. It's like, but I'm working every day to do my best. And sometimes my best isn't that great. And other times it's amazing.
Awesome. I do totally understand that. And I too have let go of the shame of like the substance use many years ago, and things that I did that I wasn't very kind to myself. And I just don't dwell there. Like, you don't dwell there. There's no point. You can't change it. So focus on the things you can change, right?
Yeah. and the journey of being, at our best. And I think that is like, I hope that that is always going to be a lifetime journey for me. And people think, oh my God, what do you mean you never stop? Like, you never stop? Like, yeah, but you don't ever stop. Maybe the last breath I'll be like, yay, I've reached enlightenment. I doubt it though. I think it's got a few more lifetimes to go.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And breathing mental health advocacy and wellness and all you do with the book and Unsinkable and just your life and who you are. And I see that as absolutely amazing because you're encompassed by that. And I feel like with my work too, it's not work, it's love, right? For the community and for people.
I love that idea that it's not work, because they do, there's that old saying, like, love what you do and you'll never work. And that came true in your life. And I think, like, for me too, I really, through my own life and my own experiences, want to break down the silo that mental health lives in. To me, and everybody's experience is different, but in my life, mental health is so integrated with physical health and spiritual journeying. Yeah. So, like, to me, there isn't a separation. It's like, of course, every day I'm going to try to eat nutritious foods. And I'm going to try to move my body, because that's what is part of what fills up my soul and what's part of what gives me good chemistry, which is part of my mental health. So it's like, I really, as I talk about mental health, and because I think as an athlete, people resonate with me in a different way. So when I start talking about my mental health and my experience in it, I really try to normalize that conversation. It's like, what, everybody's got mental health. Sometimes your mental health might be like rock star level, right? And other times it might be not so great, right? But we all have mental health. It's actually something we should be mindful of and thinking about investing in on a daily basis. And then when we come across a situation where we're with somebody who's experiencing mental illness, who's like in the throes of mental illness, we have that ability to identify, right? Because it's not something that's without, it's something that I also experience within me. Maybe I've never experienced anything like that, but I've experienced other things within myself that give me the compassion and the empathy for that person. And I just think all in all, if we would embrace mental health, and we would embrace the triad of health, which to me is mind, body, soul, that we would be better humans in all aspects of our life.
Yeah, and that really relates and echoes the whole Stigma-Free Society's message. It's all about awareness, understanding, the acceptance of ourselves and other people. So I think that you really just encapsulated that beautifully.
Thank you.
Very similar. I know that you recently had a youth show. I'd love to hear about this. A great success. I heard it was huge. So tell me about this. What inspired you? And yeah.
Well, like we were sort of talking in the beginning of the show, like when you envisioned the Stigma-Free Society, you didn't know how it would happen and how it would all unfold. And certainly when I envisioned Unsinkable, I knew that I would have a youth channel eventually, but like COVID just pushed us into that because, like I said, what we found out was, calls to Kids Help Phone had gone up 325%. And that just stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
I was like, this actually is a mental health emergency, and we need to do something. So my team and I were talking, and how can we story share? We should have a show, right? So we were thinking like something that's an online show, a little bit like this format, where we brought people on, and 5,000 people might have watched it, and we were all excited about that. And then I don't know, we talked to the wrong people, Andrea, and they were like, "You got to think bigger." And suddenly it's like,
you're like,
do a TV show, and I'm like, what? But I think what became our strength, Andrea, was that we always knew that the show was not about the stars, that the stars that we got were going to make us in a position to get on CTV for a 1-hour special, and it was going to draw kids to the show, but it would be the kids' stories and their voices that would carry the show. They would become the stars and the narrative of the show. Because I knew, because I love young people, I knew that young people were going to say some really profound things about their experience during COVID. Yeah. And I also knew that parents need to hear it. Parents and caregivers and teachers, they need to hear it, because there was so much those first few weeks of COVID around people losing jobs and like our health and immune compromise. And there was all of that. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of musicians going online and sharing their music and their poetry and everything, but it was all kind of focused on adults. And I was thinking like, yeah, but what about the kids? Because they're learning online, they're stressed about their parents and their home and all those things that we're stressed about, but they're also apart from their peer group, which, as you know, is more important at that age than their parents. And it's actually how they learn was through their peer group. And they also are losing things that are what I would call moments. Mm-hmm. Their high school graduation, their their first year of university as a freshman.
Sports too.
Their which?
Sports.
Your sports. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me how important sports are. Their music, their championship game, their, Canadian rowing championships, like all the things that they literally worked all year for, and they were like, gone. And then what was happening to them too was like the finish line kept changing. So just like us, one day we'd hear from the Prime Minister, oh, we're going to open in 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, no, we're not. And that was also happening to young people from the perspective of like their next steps in school. Yeah. And so we know that young people are more at risk for mental health crises. And then, so the show became about celebrating the young people, listening to their voices, giving them an opportunity to be heard. And, they'd have Madison Bailey and Seth Rogen and, Alicia Cara, like those were like awesome moments of the show. And definitely, I think the young people who watched it, and we had like 350,000 people watch this show, they were uplifted by those moments, but I think they also recognized themselves as the stars of the show. So, Andrea, it was incredible. And one thing I will say that is the most incredible thing about the show is we did it without a single dollar. Wow. We put together what amounted to a $500,000 production with zero money, because every single person, from Leo Burnett to, Latimer Productions, to the Walk of Fame, to, our editing house, Saints Editing, like literally hundreds of hours. We were all working 18 hours a day that last 12 days.
Yeah, it came out fast.
We did it.
Yeah.
And we did it. And so back to your word about love, to me, that show is a physical demonstration of the love that 20, 25 people got together and said, we're going to do this.
So amazing. Is there any way to watch it now for
no.
people at home?
No, it sucks. But we're going to have, we only with the music, especially, like, I learned so much about legal rights and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
For 2 weeks on Unsinkable Youth Panel, we are going to do a version of it that's just about the kids, once we get all the kids' permissions to do that, and then that'll live on. And honestly, that's the nugget in the kernel. Yeah. So follow our Unsinkable Youth channel on Instagram, and then you'll get news of it. And then I would think that's going to be done within the month or so.
Yeah, and people's personal stories, we value that at the Stigma-Free Society as well. And we have in our toolkit an inspiring stories component where the community, youth, whoever can give a 2 to 3 minute video. And I think people should really contact Unsinkable if you have a story to tell. I had my story published on there, and we all have a story. So I feel that platform is just so supportive and amazing.
Well, thank you. And we're growing. There's things we don't understand. I think one of the aspects that Black Lives Matter has brought out is that we need to have more representation from a broader community, and helping us understand how to access those stories and those voices. And we've kind of turned the Unsinkable Youth channel these first couple of weeks, because we only launched 3.5 weeks ago, over to Voices of Color. So I feel like I'm on a learning journey too.
Yeah. I think so many of us do feel that way, and embracing it is the important thing, right? And recognizing that. So
embracing and kind of like understanding, like, wow, I actually don't really understand. And so how do I educate myself, and how do I listen? All those things.
Awesome. So we have a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to ask you, did you have a message for people out there who may be struggling with mental health or mental illness at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think my message would be very around, you're not alone. And hear that. What does that actually mean? Well, what it means is that a whole bunch of people have gone through the same shit you're going through right now. And they know what it feels like to be at the edge, and to feel like your life doesn't have meaning, and that you're not worth it, and that you carry shame so deeply that you can't stand the idea of getting up the next morning. And that there are people who've been there, and they came back from that, and they came back through that, not on their own. They came back from that by like reaching out and saying, I can't do this alone. And like reaching out to Kids Help Phone, reaching out to the Stigma-Free Society, Unsinkable. Like sometimes the first reach out might not get you to the right place. Like you got to, sometimes you have to reach out a few times before you find that. But once you come to that place of getting help and understanding that you need help, I think that's the beginning of the healing journey. And so you are not alone. There are other people who've felt the same things. I'm not saying I felt the same things that you're feeling right now. If you're struggling, I maybe felt different things, but there's people who've literally walked in your footsteps, and you will find them. On the Unsinkable site, there's a mom there who wrote her story. She's lost 2 children. Mm-hmm. And you think, oh, this is such an extraordinary pain. How would anybody ever be able to relate to it? Well, you know what? There's somebody there who can relate to that. There's people who've lost limbs, and who've fallen into deep addictions and have done things that they still feel shame for. So like knowing that, and Andrea, also that our chemistry, it's a real thing. Our chemistry affects our brain, and it affects our actions and how we feel about ourselves and how we, are able to function in this world. And some people have been blessed with lovely, lovely chemistry, and it's not up and down, and it's not sadness and all those things. And other people haven't. Other people, it's a constant struggle, and it's okay. Like I take medication once a day. It makes a huge difference in my life. I've done counseling, I've done journaling, I do everything else, but I also take a pill, and I feel no shame for that. So like educating ourselves, Andrea, about how complex health is, how complex mental health is part of it. So if you're out there struggling, raise a hand. If you're a young person, call a Kids Help Phone. And I'm saying that because I know that they have counselors and resources all across the country. So I know that they can help you, right? There's a lot of other organizations that can help as well, that provide resources in different ways. But if you're really, really struggling and you're doing what I did outside that hotel room, where I felt like I was going to hurt somebody, I had so much rage. And I put up my hand and I said, I can't do this alone. If that's the position you're in, ask for help.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And in closing, a stigma-free quote that I created actually, and it just fit with everything you're saying, that no matter what our challenges, we can all live extraordinary lives. And I feel that to be really true. And do ask for help, because things do change and it is there for you.
Yeah. And Andrea, you are living an extraordinary life. And I know so many people that you have now brought into your life are living extraordinary lives. So I'm so grateful, and I'm sending you lots of love and light. And I hope you raise some money today. And I hope you raise, awareness as people tune in and start to hear all of these amazing stories.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so now we're going to close off. Thank you, Silken. It's been an absolute pleasure. We just jive. I just felt this was amazing. And I really appreciate your time. I know you are just so out there and busy. And did you want to just say where people could find Unsinkable?
Yeah. Absolutely. So you can go to www.weareunthinkable. You can follow us on Twitter @Unsinkable. You can go to our Instagram, Unsinkable Youth or Unsinkable. So basically, if you type in Unsinkable and you do a tiny, right? Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you, Silken.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care of yourself. Bye.
Bye.